Hello everyone. This is the first week that I actually realized that a week has gone between this one and the previous one. Last week and the previous ones were like, is this already Thursday? Now it's getting a bit better in terms of announcement things and things going on, and so. I'm a bit more relaxed, and I can say that I can look forward to the future stuff with a bit less anxiety. So everyone, welcome to tea time. We have a pretty busy schedule today. We have a special one about Warplan, of course. Warplan. This is the first time we're going to show Warplan to the public. We have an interview with Alvaro from Kraken Studios. He's the developer of the game. He'll tell us about, a lot about his experience in developing game set in the Pacific, and I think that's the most interesting part. But there's lots of interesting things that Alvaro has to say. So I look forward to that. You can see that the subscribers count up there is working. Just so that you know, we've just added 2 games for subscribers only to purchase with the Slits. These games are ICBM and Stirring Abyss. So make sure that you go on the Slit channel and redeem your game if you were just waiting for that. And of course, the next 100 subscribers, we will add more games there. So make sure you subscribe, because that's the only way to get these games to be listed, the new games to be listed on the Slate store. One important piece of information: War in the East 2. Guys, that we've started pre-orders. Pre-orders are going super well. And one of the things was we started pre-orders because we couldn't guarantee that we could deliver the manuals to everyone willing to purchase the manual from day one. The first batch of manuals will be received just after day one, just after Easter, so around the 10th of April. So by the time we dispatch them, it will be around mid-April. Because this first batch is only made of 1,000 manuals, we decided to open pre-orders. So anyone who pre-ordered a game could get his manual at launch. We are getting very close to the 1,000 sold already. So make sure that you use this opportunity, because unfortunately, after that, you'll have probably to wait until mid-May before your manuals are dispatched. The manual for War in the East is the biggest thing we've ever done in terms of, like paper stuff. It's a 520 pages long book. We are, it's like 3 kilos. It's very, very big. It's huge, and so it's part of the experience, I would say. So make sure you take that opportunity. So I am one of the first 1,000 to order. You are one of the first 1,000 to order the physical version. There's many more who ordered the download, pre-ordered the download version, but that's only for the physical. I'm referring to, of course. So that's one. After that, I wanted to make a quick recap on the beta tests that we have open right now. So right now on the Slitherine site, you can subscribe to beta for Starship Troopers, Distant Worlds 2, which is also present on the Matrix Games beta channel, Battle Sector, Caster of Magic for Windows, and DLCs. So you've got Panzer Corps, which is releasing next week, and Field of Glory next DLC. This is one that will be announced very soon. And on the Matrix Games store, you have Matrix Games page. You have, of course, Warplan Pacific, and we'll know more about release dates when we talk to Alvaro. And Decisive Campaigns, Ardennes, and again, I think Valorant Victory is also there. So there's a lot of opportunity to subscribe to betas. Make sure that you do that, and we'll make sure that we have a good mix of people participating in all the betas. That's an important piece of information. Make sure you do that. There's also tournaments happening. We've got the Field of Glory 2 Medieval and the Strategic Command World War I tournament ongoing. We will soon finally open subscriptions for the tournament for Panzer Corps. This is going to be the first one, matching with the release of 1941. I think we're going to get to announcing the first tournament around probably in the next couple of days, if not in the next couple of days, like middle of next week. But it's going to be very, very soon. So watch out, because it's still going to be very much in testing and so on. But this is going to be your first opportunity to play Panzer Corps competitively. I ordered one of these two first day, and he said it was approaching 1,000 physical orders. So yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly how many, but that's the number I've been told, and I just wanted to let you guys know. So that's the thing. Before we move to Warplan, remember that after this stream we'll have Gamer playing Warplan Pacific, and Alvaro will also be in the chat answering questions. So any question you've got, if it's not answered during the interview because we can't pick it up or any reason, just make sure you stick around for the stream and you'll ask the question during the stream, and Alvaro will sure answer the question there. But without further ado, let me connect with Alvaro here. Let's see if this is going to work, and bets are on if audio is going to work.
Hello.
Alvaro, hello.
Good morning for me, good afternoon for you, I believe.
It is late afternoon, yes. Everything's fine with the audio, I hope.
Yes, everything's good.
Okay, cool.
You gotta adjust your mic a little bit. You're cutting out a little bit.
All right, okay. I'm gonna try and do a better job at not moving too much and stuff. Alvaro, you're coming to the end of this development cycle. How do you feel?
I feel pretty good. I listened to some of the players in the beta forums that they requested, and I made some modifications. They did a fantastic job in helping me the scenarios. We had some challenges, but it's looking pretty good, and I've gotten a lot of compliments on the map as well, which are great.
Yeah, the map looks great. Look, the map looks great, and before we get to that, because I have a question about the map actually, but
Yes.
the good starting point to talk about Warplan Pacific is because it's coming on the back of another release, of course. What are the big changes that players are expecting with this release?
Well, some of the changes, believe it or not, came from the players. They made requests, and so I looked at their requests and I decided to make decisions on what is best based on game design and based on what they want. So some of the biggest changes, which they were pretty adamant, was that unlike in Warplan Europe, where you have two capital naval group, in this one you have single capital ships per naval group. So players should be very excited to see their Pearl Harbor Strike Force consisting of all 6 carriers in their fleet. The naval battles that people have had in the beta forums, they really enjoy them. They get a good feel for what it is. The other thing players requested was naval and air specialties. So they liked the specialties so much in Warplan that they wanted it for everything. So I put them for naval ships, and I put them for airplanes too. So you have things like a navigator, or they're better in surface combat, or they're better at spotting the other guy, ace in a bomber or a fighter. So it's really good. The last thing that players have been asking me for is a fog of war like what they're used to. As you know, Warplan has a completely different fog of war that is based a little bit on deception, mission, and players can actually kind of create their own fog of war by breaking down units and pretending like they're bigger than they are, and the players won't know it. But in this one, what I did is that the naval units are invisible, and you detect them depending on how close they are to your bases. And then you also have something called intelligence communications, which you accumulate points over time, and you use them to either spot an enemy, get more information on an enemy, break the enemy's encryption codes, or rework your encryption codes to prevent them from being broken. So the more your encryption codes are broken, the better, like what I call intel points, work on detecting what is in a location. And it makes a really interesting dynamic for the game, because you don't know if your code has been broken or not, and you don't know how well you broke the other person's code, but you could tell. Players will get like a real feel by how well the intel comes out, and what like the bonuses that you get that it says when you scan it. It's a really nice system that adds a lot of great anxiety to the naval play, that you don't know. You turn the corner with your carrier fleet and you have no idea who's there. You spot a force that says it has 9 ships. You don't know how many carriers it has, how many battleships it has. It's fascinating. And then with the night action movement and the extra specialties for like extra supplies, that's going to make the Guadalcanal campaign pretty interesting and exciting. Now we also added blockading of ports, so you could blockade like a small island with 1 naval group and any kind of port with 3 naval groups. The naval system is very exciting for this. I had to make a lot of good changes and also positive AI results for it. Players are really going to enjoy it. I enjoy it.
You actually, Alvaro, you use the word "feel" a lot, and I think it's a good starting point to talk about one other thing. Coming from a game that's
based
in Europe, so a completely different setting. How do you capture that feel of the war in the Pacific? How's that difficult and different from your previous experience?
Oh, well, that's actually a really excellent question. As you know, this plays completely different than Europe. Europe is a land-based game where you're going after territory, and the maneuvering on the oceans, the Allies clearly have a huge superiority. But over here, the Japanese start very, very strong, and the Allies have to be incredibly careful not to get their fleet sunk and then have the Japanese go all over the map and take too many victory locations where they have a harder time coming back. Inevitably, the Allies do have a larger force late in 44, and they should be able to come back to beat up the Japanese, but they have to take enough victory locations to do so and hold them. While this is what I want to say is a different kind of anxiety for this game, which is what I mentioned before. Positioning your naval forces, strategic planning, watching your oil. The Japanese especially have to watch their oil in the game. And protect their oil assets to make sure they aren't invaded, put enough planes across the map. They have to decide exactly where they want to attack and where they want to focus their efforts. I would say the Japanese biggest challenges are resources and building the units that they need to protect their defensive zones. And for the Allies, it's being patient and building up their forces and making sure they build enough forces to do what they want and schedule it. It has a strategic and operational aspect, but everything in this game is naval. It's mostly naval.
Yeah.
Land units are not as important.
Well, one of the things, though, is that despite this being a very different setting and a very different game, some of the stuff you managed to retrofit into Warplan Europe, right? So how did that happen?
Yes, I did. Well, because with the recommendations in the beta, what we did was we created something called Pursuit Combat, which players, like if you can move now your maximum move and have a chance to engage the enemy, it'll be at half strength. And it depends on a lot of, say, you have one fleet that's trying, like the defending fleet is trying to avoid, right? They're in what they call raider mode. If anybody that plays Warplan understands, that means you're not to engage the enemy. And the other person's in fleet mode, which means you are trying to engage the enemy, then they will perform the pursuit combat. But let's say the defending fleet actually wants to engage in combat, then a full combat will occur at the end of the movement as they will try to intercept them before they get there, and then pursuit won't happen. So this adds a lot of flavor. It removes some of the more micromanaging things that was in Warplan Europe of chasing down submarines. So these are all ideas that came from players. The next one was the Sub Hunter, which is the same thing, which you put like a carrier or destroyer force out in a convoy lane, and it sits there and puts a broad protection to help escorts hunt down subs instead of chasing subs down like in the earlier versions of Warplan. So this came out of Pacific also. I also did an improved interface where I have, considering some of our disabled gamers, I have an option to enable or disable toggle keys for the shift, the control, and the alt in the game. So we made that more efficient. So that way, it's fewer buttons on the screen unless you need them. And one of the other things was improved AI. The AI is always improving. I love working on AI. So I managed to work out better land AI, air AI, naval AI, especially the naval AI, because it's very important to this game. But that was very, very difficult to program for the Pacific. A lot of things to consider. While Warplane Europe can be like a blunt weapon as the Axis, in the Pacific, it's more like a very fine instrument on what you do and the strategies that you do.
Yeah. I think that one of the subjects that comes up more frequently these days, we're talking to you and in emails and such, is how this AI subject was tackled with Pacific, and how it created you anxieties and difficulties, right? So can you go through that process and explain a bit how did you, if you're satisfied with the end result, but also what was the process that brought you there?
Well, players, from a design aspect, what I can say is that players, I think they believe that you can make an AI that can be challenging to a human, and in a game of this scale and this size, it's very incredibly difficult, if not impossible, unless you give me like a Google DeepMind quantum computer and a lot of time. The naval AI in this game has to figure out and estimate exactly where the enemy is, gauge their strength sizes. It uses intel points itself to figure out how strong the opponent is, and then makes a decision to engage him or not engage him. A lot of the stuff, a lot of the maneuvers that they do is scripted. But one of the things that I did do, I put a new toggle in the game that basically says, let whatever side that you're playing against play historically, and it kind of follows a historical path, or you could send it to a random plan, which means historical and some things not historical. They might choose a different direction to go, or not a different direction to go, which so it gives an option for players that want to play historical, and ones that want a little bit more of a challenge and want random strategies. The other consideration for this game is also the scale of the game. Warplan Europe is on 25 miles or 40 kilometers. Warplan Pacific is 50 miles per hex. And 80 kilometers, which is about in line with War in the Pacific. So what I'm trying to get people in here is that they have a War in the Pacific map with an easier complexity level, so that they could finish a game and they really enjoy it. A lot of the challenges with the AI came with interacting on the interception systems and the combat systems. Because unlike a board game where somebody can make a move and then you say, well, do you want to intercept? Do you want to support? Do you want to do this? They interact back and forth. You can't do that in a computer game. You do your turn and then you send them and they do their turn. And so figuring out that whole dynamic of how to set up what plane intercepts what and how often they should, and which naval units do this, and to make sure that players can't kind of game the system to work around it, that was a big challenge, and there will be changes for future engines of Warplan on this. This game, I'd say, Warplan, since Warplan was my very, very first game, the only way I could put this is I saw a picture of a Ford Model T from like 1900 whatever, and I was trying to build a Ferrari. So, a modern Ferrari. So, really, really difficult to do. I'm glad I didn't read some of the earlier articles before I started, because I might not have ever made it on how difficult it is to do what I did. But it's been a fantastic experience with it.
How long did it take you to come to complete the whole process for Pacific?
For Pacific, well, I'll start with Warplan. It took about 6,000 man hours, which is about 3 years of full-time work. With Pacific, I would say I've been thinking about the design ever since the beginning of Warplan Europe, but the actual work, if I had to make an estimate, about 1,000 hours, because it uses the same base engine and then it builds up on it.
Yeah. So. That's interesting. One of the things that we were looking at is, and I think it's coming from a comment as well, is making Pacific games is hard because there's a lot of imbalance between forces, and stuff happens in waves historically, right? It's not like it's like a consistent development of historical events. So how did you balance historical accuracy against making a fun game and an experience that mimics what's happening without being too bitty, I would say?
Well, that's where the depth in the strategy comes, because you need to understand the side that you're playing, their weaknesses, and play into them, and understand what you got to do. So for the Axis, early on, you want to try to ambush and sink as many Allied ships as you can, and take out as many islands with victory hexes as you can, and take as many forward bases as you can. As the Allies, it's patience and timing and gathering your resources. It's two completely different strategies for both sides, and then the strategy changes as the war progresses. It kind of flip-flops. The Axis are on the offensive for basically the first, I want to say, year and a half, and then the Allies become on the offensive. But even how both of them do their offensives and defenses are very, very different. The Allies are trying to prevent the Axis from spreading too far early in the game, and then it flip-flops. So the Axis want to prevent the Allies from taking victory locations late in the game. So some islands might be important and some islands might not be important, but the Axis have a lot more to protect later on in the game for victory than the Allies. They're going to have to make some decisions, including saving a lot of oil and really figuring out where they want to engage the Allies with their fleet, where they want to commit their fleet for that big battle that might or might not make the decisive blow in the game. So usually in board games that I have played, the Allies are very, very passive for the first couple of years, and the Axis are very, very active trying to catch them. But late in the year, the Axis they make a decision point. I'm going to make my stand here at wherever it is that the Allies go, and they fight a big naval battle. So that's the strategy of it. But like you said, the historical part is completely different.
Yeah.
The Japanese, they committed partial forces to Midway, then partial forces to the Aleutians, and partial forces here to Deception. Very large, complex plans. When if they just stuck their entire fleet in one location, they would have done better. But then the Allies wouldn't have engaged them. So with designing a war game, you start with history. And the war game is based on history, but it's a war game. You can't completely base on history because you're not recreating history. You're trying to make your own thing, trying to make your own, well, what if I do this? And what if I try that? And what if I do this? You have to make some accommodations and some changes and assume that that each side does what is intelligent. And the history is like weaved in there. So the players get a good feel, like that word I like to use a lot, a good feel for the history and play a very exciting game. And of course, the best way to play Warplan Pacific is versus another person.
Yeah. Alvaro, I have a final question, which is more personal.
Yes.
After releasing almost 2 games, would you do it again?
Would I do it again? Now with what I know?
Would you do it again? Yeah.
I would do it again. I've been a gamer since I was 15 years old. I'll tell you a little story. So this is how I got introduced to wargaming. There was a friend of mine that introduced me to the game Third Reich. And this is how he introduced it to me. He said, let's play. And I was really interested, started getting interested in World War II. And he would do it by telling me the rules as we went along. So I wouldn't know what I was. And then suddenly in 1942, he beat me by what they call rules lawyering me. So it was not a good way to learn the game. But ever since then, I was fascinated with wargaming. So I got into it. And I have to say that my wife is the one that pushed me to design games because she knew that I loved about games. And finally, we got to a financial situation where I could do it, and we can, and I could do it as my own income. And it took about 5 years, doing it part-time, on my spare time to make the first game. And now that it has gone on sale and things are progressing nicely, now this is my full-time job, and I absolutely love doing this. If you have the mind for coding and design, make games. It's fantastic. And Matrix is an excellent publisher for war games. I'm successful without them. Matrix and Slitherine.
Thank you, Alvaro. Well, you've got a whole community who's thanking your wife for supporting you then. That's the message, I guess. We are going to go back to actually seeing Warplan Pacific in action with Gamer in about 5 minutes now. So I will say goodbye for now and stick around, Alvaro, for answering questions in the chat during the stream, so that fans can actually ask about curiosities and other things. Thanks for your time, and we're looking forward to seeing Warplan Pacific released very, very soon.
You're very welcome. I enjoyed our conversation, and I hope everybody enjoys the game.
Thank you, Alvaro.
Bye.
Well, guys, this was I think this was very interesting. I think that what is getting this great interest to me all the time is the passion, really, the passion that our developers, especially war games developers, put into what they do. They have like a real understanding about the setting, about the idea they have, and so on. But then they put 3,000 man hours in a passion thing. It's just incredible, and I think that's what makes these games worth supporting. Also, remember that when you buy one of these games, you actually support a passion of a great, talented developer. So thank you, Alvaro, for that. I will go back to the chart with the summary of the future releases, so that you can put that full screen. So we just recap what has been announced and what is upcoming. Fantasy General, Evolution, and Armor Brigade DLCs have been released already. The next release on the plan is Panzer Corps 2 1941 next week. It's going to release on the Epic Games Store as well as in all the other stores where the game's available, of course. After that, we'll have War in East 2 on the 25th of March. This is looking like definitely happening, and then anything else that's in the plans doesn't have a firm release date yet. We've added there a Field of Glory DLC number 1, which is going to be announced soon. So watch out for announcements. Guys, that the medieval will have DLCs, so we just thought we'd add that in the plans, because it is happening. Anything else that's not been defined in terms of dates, the next big things with dates will probably be Combat Mission Cold War, and Warplan Pacific will soon, or very, very soon, have a definite release date. We are actually looking at the Q3 release schedule in these days to give dates to the product releases. And there's other stuff that's not been announced yet that we will release in April, May, June. So this is what's expecting us in the very near future. There's a lot more to be announced, and so you should be aware of that very, very soon. Trying to see if there's any question here. Cold War, please, coming soon, Richard York. I think that's mostly it, guys. So Battle Sector is coming along super nicely. We've got a definite release in May, and that would be it for today. So guys, thanks for following. It's been again a pleasure hosting this tea time event. If you have any question, and if there is anything you want to know during the week, just post the questions on the social networks. We'll be answering the questions on a Thursday, or we can answer the questions directly in the social network if that works. But Facebook, Twitter, Discord, Instagram, YouTube, whatnot. Campaign Series Vietnam, I don't see. Campaign Series Vietnam is not in beta yet. We are still unsure about release date there. Again, war game, lot of people involved, and a passion project. So no firm release on that. So we don't want to put anything there that's not like 100% coming within the time frame we're telling. So I will see you next week. I'm not even sure what we have next week, but it's release date for Panzer Corps 2 1941. Oh, let me give you the future streams or upcoming streams. So as I said, Warplan Pacific after this. Edmund will play Panzer Corps 2 1941 at 5:30 p.m. So just in 2 hours time. Tomorrow we've got War in East 2 with XTRG again. Last week's stream has been super popular, so we'll be looking forward to that. And we have our super traditional Saturday stream with Kushan, who's always watching us. So thanks for Kushan for supporting CMO with such a passion. And we have a Sunday stream also at 8 p.m. We have Sergeant Z-Dog playing Battlestar Galactica Deadlock. I'm happy that Sergeant Z-Dog is still playing Battlestar Galactica Deadlock, because that has been one of the best-selling titles we had in our recent Steam sale. So it's still got a lot of life, and I really, really hope this is going to go on for a long time. Thank you, everyone. I will see you next week, and leave you to Warplan Pacific.